row. And other than that, yeah. So today, Kieran, what are we going to talk about?
Today is actually a topic submitted by our very own in Blacklist, Napalm. And he's also a very, very active Redditor. And what he told us to talk about was consumables. A lot of people understand the really basics of consumables in TERA. That's like potions and scrolls and stuff. But there's actually a lot more that you can do to really improve your character. And especially with the next patch coming out, everyone really needs to understand what consumables are readily available for you and how different mechanics affect the different consumables that are available. First of all, I'd like to talk about just the basic stuff that people know about. Nice fucking smile. But the first thing that I'd like to talk about is potions and what kind of potions are basically available. Let's do this. So, most people understand health potions and mana potions. You know, those are the things that give you health on demand or a healing over time, a hot effect, or on-demand mana, or a mana over time effect. These things are such as healing droughts, healing potions, healing... what are those things? The heal over time ones. Rejuvenation potions, divine infusions, things like that. When do you usually use these, Flo?
Normally for PvE, the best time to use your consumables is in the event where you think you're not going to get a heal from your healer. So it's be best, like, for example, grabbing debuffs when you're doing Chandra Manaya. When you're downing Chandra Manaya and grabbing debuff, hey, you're not going to receive that heal in time, and you know you're going to take that flat 40k damage when you're grabbing the debuff. So potting would be nice. Mana pots as a Slayer, and as any DPS, if you want to keep your damage as optimal as possible, you're going to want to always use those mana pots over and over. Divine infusions are really, really important for sorcerers especially. I know this for a fact. And so those are the best times to use the consumables, along with before going into any sort of heavy combat and such like that. Having that Panzic bolster go in so that your stamina doesn't go down is definitely a good precaution to start out before you go into a fight that you know will last 5 to 30 minutes, for example, Queen. So
yeah. As a berserker, like, even with infused charms, even with like a priest constantly mana buffing, if you're optimally DPSing a boss and constantly axe blocking everything, because pretty much your mana from your auto attack is consumed by your block to begin with, so you need to be using divine infusions. The best time to stock up on those guys, because that is probably the most used consumable if you are a mana intensive class, is going to be right after they announce like a box event, because that's where a lot of divine infusions come into the market, and that's when you can buy them the cheapest, because otherwise there's no other way of just farming them. You strictly get those out of boxes. Alright, so that's just the really, really basic things that are available with as far as consumables go for TERA. One thing that we're going to get into a little bit more advanced of a mechanic is charms. A lot of people understand charms as just you toss them in the fire and you're good to go for that 15 minutes. There's a couple of variations though. And by the way, you always want to use Infused, which is the mana regen one, Enduring, which increases your endurance, which reduces the overall damage you take, and then lastly, Power or Keen. Most people use Power, however, because that's more just staple. Anyway, moving on into the more advanced aspect of what charms do is actually based on your stamina, based on your current stamina, you receive an increased or decreased effect from charms. This is huge. Let's see. Could you talk us through a little bit of what we're seeing on the chart here?
okay, so basically, the chart that I have up right now is the difference between having no charms at 120, having charms at 120 stamina, and then having charms at 135. From what you can see here, by having that 15 stamina difference, you'll be getting 4 more power, 3 more endurance, 20% more mana for mana infusion charms, and just like overall more damage, more defense, more HP specifically. Having more stamina and always being above 100 stamina is ensuring that you're doing the most optimal damage possible, both in PvE and in PvP, making sure that you have the basically min-maxing your character at its best and just kind of is a general standard when you're doing any kind of content in Terra in general. The thing about Terra is that you're very committing in terms of fighting and all that stuff that you forget about your stamina just going down over time, and because of that, like getting a good track of what your stamina is definitely something important. Like definitely a deciding factor when you realize that suddenly you're doing things a lot slower than usual, or you're getting completely stomped by someone in PvP all of a sudden because you're taking way more damage than usual. So that's definitely something to look out for.
Yeah. Giving stamina affecting pretty much everything you do, like you said, from damage to mana pool to just the effect of charms, which I personally prefer power charms over anything. Do you ever have a time that you actually like Keen over power?
As a berserker, I would definitely use Keen. Keen is way more useful as a charm for Corsairs, in my opinion. Like when you're playing as a range class, I would like to have Keen. It's more so leaning towards PvP, in my opinion, than in PvE. And also, we forgot to mention that there's also a mirror charm, which people are using specifically for Corsair Stronghold. It's a very Corsair Stronghold specific charm for varying reasons that we can explain another time.
Yeah.
But it's more those Keen and mirror charms are both very PvP leaning charms, whereas Infuse is a standard that everyone should have regardless.
Always.
Yeah.
If you ever do a battleground or PvE or anything, and you notice that your mana efficiency is non-existent, check charms. That is the number one thing that's going to be giving you that kind of mana efficiency that you're looking for. Moving on from charms, but we will touch up on that a little bit later as well with the 135% stamina. But moving on to scrolls. Scrolls are a pretty staple in both PvE, PvP. If you're doing Alliance content, you obviously can't use them in Corsairs. You can't use them in 3v3. But scrolls, pretty much you're always going to be using Savagery. If you're a DPS class in any way, shape, or form, you're going to be using Savagery. What a Savagery scroll does is it actually increases the critical chance multiplier by... Let's take a look here, actually. So, it increases the critical power multiplier by 1.34 for 15 minutes. Terra's DPS is heavily reliant on crit multipliers. You know, if you don't crit as a Berserker, you're going to hit for 150k. If you crit as a Berserker with all your damage multipliers from crystals as well as Savagery scrolls, you're going to be seeing 1 mil plus crits. And that is how huge these multipliers are. If you're a DPS class, in any way, shape, or form, this crit multiplier heavily outweighs carving. The carving scrolls. Carving scrolls give you 25% or 25 crit rating, which, don't get me wrong, that's pretty hefty, and I would say it's valid if you're doing solo content, but outside of solo content, or a healer, because heals can crit as of a patch not too long ago, really, just crit multiplier is necessary. What is your take on these scrolls?
Savagery is definitely a standard for DPS. It does not matter what you're doing, whether PvE or PvP. Just the damage is completely outweighing in terms of being a DPS class, including for lances as well. Like there has been that option of that swiftness scroll, which increases your attack speed, and
only your auto attack.
Yeah, is it? No, that's not only your auto attack. I'm pretty sure it's not. That's only speed charm. That's only speed charm. No,
okay.
I know it's for a
fact. You got me.
Yep. Swiftness is a scroll that's an option for lances as well, but the damage that you deal as a lancer actually helps is varying on your aggro, how much aggro you're accumulating as a tank too. So Savage Scroll is just used throughout all DPS classes, and Swiftness Scroll is an option for lancers and is an option for healers as well, since they aren't completely dependent on being quick to get those heals off. So
Definitely, like Savagery. If you also, once again, you can use that in Alliance PvP content. So if you're looking for big hits, especially during the Alliance conflict, you have to have that Savagery Scroll on as a DPS. Scrolls are pretty much more of a thing that DPS or tanks have to deal with. Healers, it's slight min-maxing whenever you start using scrolls as a healer, for the most part. But, of course, with this upcoming PvE content, you want to min-max as much as you possibly can. Alright, so, moving on from scrolls, because they're fairly, or actually not, let's actually talk a little bit more about scrolls, being the new scrolls that are going to be coming out with this new PvE content patch that'll be hitting us shortly after Reaper. With the new patch, there's also going to be a new Savagery Scroll, Carving Scroll, and Warding Scroll, actually. But the Warding Scroll is a little bit different. What kind of new stuff is going to be coming out with the patch as far as
in terms of consumables?
Yeah.
With the scrolls in general, the new Savagery Scroll, all the new scrolls are not going to be using the mats that we're using now. We're using Zero Metal ingots and whatever. The new ones are going to be a brand new fine Zero Metal ore, in order, like, which you have to get through RNG while you're, gathering in order to get that off. The difference is that the new Savage Scroll has an additional 0.04 crit damage. The new Carving Scroll has an additional 25 crit rate. From what I know, it's like 50 something crit rate instead of what it is right now. And the new Warding Scroll is the equivalent size of a Kaya shield from Priest in comparison now. It's like 1k barrier right now currently, but the new one's going to be like 12 to 17k. I'm not exactly sure what the specifics, but it's a lot bigger than it is right now, which makes it a lot more viable both in PvE and PvP in certain situations. So
yeah, I've actually heard with the new PvE content patch and the damage output that's going on from that is groups are really utilizing that new warding. The new warding, scroll. Because negating that much damage on demand, on your own control of demand, is huge. Like, allowing groups to be able to negate that damage and relieve that pressure from your healer is pretty crazy. And so a lot of people are going to have to really be looking to get all of these stacked up and ready for this new content. As well as the fact that they're overdoubling the effect of the the fact that they're overdoubling the effect of Carving Scrolls is huge. Like, what that really seems like is they're trying to make it a valid option in comparison to the Savagery Scroll. So
yeah, if you saw the new Sork, that there was like an image that was being shown earlier, the new Sork having like 330 plus crit rate on top of his base with the new the new Carving Scroll. It's just kind of like crit central, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
They're trying to really imply that critting is part of the game for sure. Like, not like necessarily like an RNG thing, but like they're trying to lean it as a DPS to have more crits go off, have more damage go off, and boosting everyone's endurance or HP as a result of that as well. So
it'll be interesting to see some more theory crafting kind of coming from that. You know what I mean? Just because, in my opinion, it's going to give more people the option this or that. You know what I mean? Like, whenever I first was doing 60 on my Berserker, and I ran with a Priest before the Energy Stars buff and everything, I actually would occasionally use Carving Scrolls, solely due to the fact that I just lacked crit chance.
Along with the Carving Zergs too, you're getting that extra 2. You're like, I want as much crit as I can. You're putting everything on to make sure that you're getting that damage off in Queen.
Definitely. So it'll be really interesting to see how kind of groups evolve with these new consumables that are coming. So now, moving on from scrolls, let's talk about the combat boosters. All these combat boosting kind of things, which are really, in my opinion, the most core aspect. These are the things that a lot of people misunderstand how much is actually available for them. So, moving on from that, let's talk about the combat boosters. First of all, I'd like to talk about the Panaceic Bolster and the Heart Potions. Panaceic Bolsters, Flo mentioned earlier actually, make it to where for 15 minutes you cannot lose stamina. As Flo said earlier, you actively lose stamina. Anytime you do an attack, anytime you get hit, anything like that will start lowering your character's stamina. And like we stated earlier, that affects how effective your charms are at that point in time. So you need to have that active if you're doing hardcore progression. You need to, because you don't want to be losing out on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20 power by not having the maximum stamina that you can. Explain to us how heart potions work, Flo.
Heart potions is basically giving your character self HP restoration, and what that means is that you will be receiving a larger amount of heals. When applying on a healer, when they self heal themselves, I do not believe that it works when a healer self heals themselves. But when they're healing people that have the heart potion effect on them, those people will receive an additional 10 or 20% additional healing on top of whatever the amount of heal that the healer is giving off in the first place. So it's just 20% more healing. That means that if you're getting healed by someone else and you're low, you think you're low, and they don't get that crit off, it'll heal you a little bit more, so you can make sure you're like still in good shape. So
yeah, it's just like the HP restoration stat on gear. You find that on chest piece, you find that on earrings, and so that increases your incoming healing. And that being another thing that is one of those things that people, in my opinion, overlook how good that actually is. And with the new content that is coming out, guys, from what I understand, it is healer intensive. Healer intensive. Meaning your healer has to be constantly casting those heals, constantly getting everyone up, because you're taking so much constant pressure. And that's really where this heart potion is going to shine, is you really have to think about how you can actually help out your healer from their mana with the infused charms and whatnot, as well as making sure that it takes less to heal you, because otherwise you're going to be in deep shit pretty much with this next patch.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of other things that people, and this is more towards the DPS. A lot of us are DPS players, hands down. That's just what we do. That's what we enjoy doing. And though there are a couple more consumables, the only one that I personally have shown on screen right now is the DPS one. Lamb bulgogi is from the food, or what is it called?
The rootstock event.
Yeah, rootstock event, which can actually be found in the Velica or Chebica. Let's see, Velica, Val Arum, the freeholds area of Val Arum. I'll show you on my map right here. So if you go, you see Velica, you see Val Arum, you go up to, you teleport to Chebica and go up to Freehold, right in this area. So this consumable here is absolutely amazing. For 15 minutes, and mind you, there is only a 30-second cooldown, so this isn't like the heart potion, this isn't like the Panaceic bolster, or, sorry, just the Panaceic bolster, where once you use it, it's on a 15-minute cooldown. No, this is on a 30-second cooldown. When you use this for 15 minutes, you gain 5% max HP. That's quite a bit, especially with the HP increasing. We're going to expect to see from innerwear and rune crafting and all of that. 20 crit rate, which is massive. Right now, that's close to a full carving scroll, so that's huge. And 3 attack speed. Though 3 attack speed doesn't sound like a lot, to put in a perspective, just, let's see, your weapon, if you don't have an attack speed roll on that, that gives you roughly 5 attack speed. So that just shows you how big of an increase that 3 attack speed is. And so this is one of those things that just for DPS is an insurmountable damage increase for a simple daily quest, for a simple gathering in the Freehold. So if you're a DPS, you have to get this. Do you have any stocked up for the next patch?
In terms of having a lot of like Lambo Goli?
Yeah.
Yes, I have a ton right now. Actually, just ported by the Freeholds area for people to get a good glimpse of what that area looks like and such stuff.
I wish I actually would have done that beforehand. But on top of that, there are several other ones. There are ones that increase your endurance. So that's going to increase your endurance for anyone who's playing a tank for the next content patch. You want to be able to stock up on that content or that food buff there. There's also an MP restore. So for all the healers out there who are looking to actually maintain their MP, like we said, it's going to be a major healing fest on this next patch. So you want every little thing that's going to be helping you get your mana back. So make sure that you actually go to that rootstock area. You're already back? Dang, you're quick. But make sure you go to that rootstock area. Make sure you look at what recipes are available there, and make sure you stock up, because these are going to be things, if you're doing progression attempts, every single time you die, you need to be popping this again, just like your charms that we have available. Next up is the Canaphora Potion. This has been a very staple item across all DPS who are looking to push it hardcore. It's essentially, for all of you who played WoW and whatnot before this, it's a flask. This is 12% damage attack power. 12% attack power increase for a full hour, and it does not leave whenever you die, which is huge. How can you go about getting these?
There's two methods of getting it. There are, for one, there is the pay-to-win method, and what that means is that there are certain boxes that you can buy, the cosmetic outfits, and they offer a chance to win an outfit while at the same time guarantee offering you a free Canaphora potion. And then there's the free-to-play method, which was discovered, and I'm hoping that Masse does not nerf it, seeing as how it's not that big of a deal anyway. But when you're leveling to level 9 on a brand new character, at level 1, when you very first start the game, you'll get a story quest. That story quest will lead up to a level 5 supply crate. The level 5 supply crate is a crate where you have to be at a certain level following level 5 in order to continue opening these boxes. And at level 9, you'll get 2 guaranteed Canaphora potions. If you want to spam this, you most certainly can. Is this exploitable? That remains to be discussed another time. But I think it's a very simple method for those that don't want to pay for it. I don't like paying for it. Definitely. I farmed around 400. And I used about like 150 in GBG, but it's like, yeah, that's just another thing. So
yeah, and it's one of those. The thing is about Canaphoras is it's not like the Bulgogi or whatever. It's not like a charm where anytime you die, it's gone. It's once you use that, it's an hour-long cooldown as well, but it stays on you for an hour through deaths, which. For all the people who have done PvE progression, if you had to reuse these things every single time, it's rather frustrating. So the simple fact that it persists through death, and getting to level 9 is not hard. Making a new character and just power leveling, honestly, to level 9, like you could just farm mobs, and especially if you're elite status with your 100% experience boost, it's almost instantaneous level 9, to be honest. And so that's a really, really solid way of being able to farm these Canaphora potions. So if you're looking to hardcore progress, even in constant now, if you're looking for SJG rank 1 and you're progressing through that, if you're looking to progress through MC hard mode right now, all those things are really, really easy to do. And so make sure to farm up those Canaphora potions and be ready for them whenever it comes about.
There's one last thing that we should be mentioning, and it's something that I think that every player should start to learn how to do, especially when they're doing any PvE progression, or if they like being infamous while doing PvP, and it's crystal binds. That's one of the things that you should definitely be using. And what crystal binds basically does, there's two different kinds. There is a regular crystal bind that lets you RNG chance when you die that you will not be able to break any crystals whatsoever. Sometimes the crystal bind buff disappears and doesn't disappear. That's like based on the game deciding whether or not you should lose a crystal. When the game decides you deserve to lose a crystal, the crystal bind buff will disappear off of you instead. And there's another item called the complete crystal bind, and what it is it basically protects you for 12 hours from ensuring that you don't lose any crystals whatsoever. Crystals are very important both in PvE and PvP content, because losing a crystal can potentially mean losing HP or losing that big damage that you need to land in order to get anything done. So make sure to use crystal binds, guys, if you are unsure of whether or not you're going to die, and whether it is the new content or the old content.
It's going to save you a lot of money. Because Zerks, which are these green things in your jewelry, can break. They can break. So if you lose one of those, that's a dent in your pocket right there, and that's an unnecessary. You should be using that gold to buy all your other consumables. State would like to do. So pretty much one of those things that you definitely have to look into is maintaining crystal binds. One other thing to note is that complete crystal binds, they last for 12 hours and they persist through death, like the Canaphora potion. So make sure, like Flo said, if you are doing progression in any way, shape, or form, keep up that complete crystal bind. They're fairly easy to get, but you can also expect to see the price probably skyrocketing, to be honest, come the next patch whenever everybody else is doing their attempts, if people don't have them stocked up already. Thanks for mentioning that, Flo, by the way. We actually didn't have that listed, so it was kind of overlooked. Good job, Flo. Alright. So, people are probably wondering, why are we at this area right now? And like earlier I said, we were going to touch up on stamina once again. This is the Cassian tree, located, let me pull it up on stream. This is the Cassia tree in Argonia. Argonia, for those of you who don't know, it's in the upper area with like Kyator and whatnot, in Valkylie, at Canstria, and then the Cassian tree. So what this area is, with the item called an TERA shard, you can stand right in front of it where we're standing right now, and use this item. I'll actually use it right here and show you on stream with the buff that we actually get, called the Cassian Tree Essence. This increases your stamina by 5 and can be stacked up to 3 times. This effect lasts for 30 minutes, and once again, charms are affected by your stamina. How high your stamina is, how low your stamina is. So if you stack this effect 3 times in conjunction with one of these Panaceic bolsters that we were talking about, which makes it to where your stamina cannot decrease, your character will stay at a 135 stamina cap increase, which is going to increase all the effects of all of your charms and whatnot. How do people go about getting this TERA shard, Flo?
If you'll go over to the Granarchus area, there's actually a lot of these little nodes that are surrounded by these little Argon minions that kind of surround these ores, and if you basically go out of your way to farm them and gather them, which by the way you're going to need 250 plus gathering, you can get these TERA shards. Come over here and come over to the Caspian tree and just start using them slowly. It has a small CD in between 10 seconds, but you can stack it up to 3 times, hence having that 135 stamina, and hence having that bonus 4 power, 3 endurance, 20% mana regen, etc., etc. So,
which every single point counts.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of min-maxing. So he was pointing out Granarchus. You can actually also get them in Argonia, at the southern teleport platform, just south of that, at the Litherelli mana extractor. Basically, you need to get your mining, which everyone at this point should have max. You get your mining up to 300, or you can even mine this while leveling. I'd say up once you get to 225 or so. You should be gathering these TERA shards. Otherwise, this is also a slight moneymaker, because you'll be able to actually sell these on the broker or buy them if you're lazy. But they do end up costing you quite a bit. Once again, this is just a method if you're looking to really min-max your consumables, and that's really the only true purpose behind this. Outside of this is the one of 2 ways to get 135 stamina. The other way is actually, once again, one of the Freehold's Rootstock Festival items called the Freehold's Flame Salad, which raises your maximum stamina by 15 for only 15 minutes, but it is an entire raid item. So, in the situation that you are doing any raid content, such as the new 10-man, 7-man, whatever it may be, you can just use this once for the entirety of a boss fight. Freehold's Flame Salad is kind of hard to make, though, because it costs a lot of Rootstock Festival items, as well as limited items, which you only get from dailies, or special games at the Rootstock Festival quests, basically. So this is... TERA Shards is your personal method of making sure that you have 135 stamina for a full 30 minutes duration, while the Freehold's Flame Salad is more intended for if all your friends are lazy, but you want to make sure that you're capped out.
And the last method, in order for you to get your 135 stam, is to just keep gathering. Once you're gathering, you do get the gathering stam buff, and it also stacks up to 3 times. But we're not really mentioning that as much, things as it is kind of RNG. It does take a rather minimal amount of time, like maybe around 5 to 10 minutes to get that buff, when you can just go over to the casting tree and just drop 3 shards, or make the rootstock salad and just get that instant 135 stam. So there's a lot of options you have to make sure that you have your maximum stam.
Definitely. Like Flo said, gathering is kind of inconsistent because you'd have to bother your team, and I think it only lasts 10 minutes, right? I think
15 minutes or so. Plus, it's RNG. You don't always get that buff. You can get the gathering speed buff or the mana buff. So
yeah,
it's definitely an option, though.
If you're especially if you're leveling your profession or anything like that as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So I think for the most part, guys, we have covered everything that there is to do with consumables. What we've listed and what we've shown have been most parts of it, but we've talked about everything. We've talked about crystal binds. We talked about the different freehold buffs, even though we only showed Lamb Bulgogi, whatever it's called. And we talked about TERA shards, everything along those lines. So hopefully everyone understands what you need to stack up on, what you need to be prepared for, and what you need to have to properly min-max your character. Alright, so last up, just kind of getting off of the topic of buffs. This is actually a user-submitted question from the Twitter using the hashtag EverythingTerra, which we want everyone to submit your topics to. Or on the Reddit whenever I post it. I usually post it on Friday, which is the day before the Everything Terra podcast. You can go on the Reddit post that we usually have up and submit your topics there. But this is just kind of something, once again, off topic from Warrior Griffinheart at Anive Ellen on Twitter. What is our favorite / most hated BAMs? What is your take on this, Flo?
If we're talking BAMs and we're including dungeons, then there's definitely a lot of hate on my part. A lot of bosses I do not enjoy fighting at all because of how not tedious it can get and such. Yeah. What's your most hated BAM? What do you think?
My most hated BAM is Nexus Traverse, hands down. Okay, if we're going just BAMs in general, then yeah, I'm gonna go with Dracolos. Be either Dracolos or Drake, the chicken raptor dragon things, because the fact that they're sprinting across the world, they're just diving around everywhere. Anyone who's done COF Mark IIIs especially, that motherfucker flies up in the air, he's like, caw, and then he just dive bombs, one shots your healer, there goes your fucking rank 1 run, because you can't do anything. You lag once, you're dead. You do anything, you're chasing after this thing for years. Look, we pulled aggro for half a second. It's fucking tail spinning around and KDing you. That is the entire time. That is the entire fucking time against those. I hate them. And then Nexus Traverse is even greater, because with 20 motherfuckers in your group, though it's quick, don't get me wrong. Even as a Berserker with Mocking Shout, which got buffed all the shit, I'm KD'd by that thing 100% of the time. Doesn't even matter. I can't even do any. I'm a charging class, and he's just going, wee, fucking spinning the entire time. I'm KD years. Fuck that. Fuck it all. Hate those BAMs. Hate them.
Right. You know what one of my most hated BAMs is when I was leveling? Do you know the BAM over in the Zulfikar Fortress map? The volcano guy with his back?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that thing? Alright, that thing... Okay, I have a funny story. Okay, back in the day, when we used to do a lot of guild versus guild, kind of fighting outside of the ZF maps and kind of battling it out with all the Nexus nodes and stuff like that. Back then, me and Lucky would toss our GM titles back and forth because we were cheap about trying to win GVGs. But Lucky had the GM title one time and we got sniped because the volcano BAM, it 360 spun through the air and like jumped on top of him and then did that cannon shot with his back that shot forward and KD chain lucky chunked him like 30% and then he got sniped by like two like SPQR berserkers that like just like instant one shot him. That BAM is such a pain when you're first leveling and it was so hard back then because your gear was just awful and you didn't have crystals either, so he would just like tackle you for like 40% of your HP for like no reason. So I hated that guy. Oh my god.
Flame toads, man. Flame toads. That's what I know them as. They're fucking weird. And they're just like sliding around all the time. Just, yeah, they're a pain. They've one-shot me multiple times as well. That's also a Crucible of Flame. That whole instance is like, let's combine every most annoying fucking mob at once. And or in just one chain. Thank you very much.
Who said you were gonna get any?
What? She's denying me food. But basically, COF is just a consolidation of the worst BAMs in this fucking game, and that place is Devil Spawn. If you're trying to get high score, especially with RNG coins on top of that. Enough about our most hated BAMs, unless you have another one.
Argon Corpus last boss, the laser guy. I hated him the most because once he got to the 30% burn back in the day, he would just spawn all of the jellies and then he would laser one shot. It would just be like
Funny story, actually.
Wipe everyone. That was great.
Funny story, actually. You know how In Masse and them always do a whole bunch of chain spawn, like spawning bosses and stuff?
Yeah.
They spawned that guy. They spawned 4 of AC Hard Mode's last boss.
I actually saw that. They wiped like 50 people off the map.
I was there. I was like, the moment I saw those, I was just like, are you fucking me right now? Do they know what they've done? And all of a sudden, I just see it like mount its fucking turrets or like its tentacles.
Yeah, it's like little squiddly arms on the floor.
Fucking like Kamehameha about to fucking happen with the laser beam, and it's just like I just see it start motioning by, and I just see bodies just like each fucking foot was killing like 10 plus players. I was just like, oh my god. And you know, myself, I was fucking hauling ass. I was running around that thing as fast as I fucking could because I knew what that shit was gonna do. After they finally we killed them miraculously because it wiped like I would say there were probably around 200 deaths in a matter of like 5 seconds in when that event happened, and it was just like, my god. Like, In Masse had no fucking clue what they had unleashed upon the world when they spawned that thing.
And Masse even summoned the Cyclops on people. They summoned like 4 Cyclopses at one point, and the Cyclops kind of lasered and like killed like 20 people here, 20 people there. It's just like, lasers are evil, guys. Lasers have killed so many people in this game, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the true death of all unsuspecting victims. But enough about what we hate. What is your favorite boss or let's go with favorite boss or favorite BAM, like in the game right now.
I think Kumas were pretty fun to fight.
Kumas?
To be honest, yeah, because think about it. When the first BAM that you legit fought, like as you were leveling, was the Basilisk first, and then the Kuma second. And I think that for those that were leveling, they felt really strong fighting against Kumas because they were just slow and they were like, you know, they were like all like sumo and stuff on you, and then like people that like felt really accomplished being able to solo a BAM for the first time. So especially the red Kuma in Baldur's Temple, like the one that has all the crit damage and stuff, like that was definitely really fun to fight when I was first starting off for like PvE in this game. So
yeah, Kuma's definitely like that was one of the things that you first really do engage, and you feel like you're fighting a BAM. Like, you could even solo those, you know, back when BAMs were actually hard to solo as well. So it was definitely interesting. What about your favorite boss? Do you have one?
My favorite boss? The last boss of Channelworks is pretty fun, which is a Cyclops boss. It's just because of the fact that my EP goes up with the big numbers. What else do I like fighting?
My favorite boss, mechanically, was probably the last boss of BT.
The one that blinds you?
Yeah.
that?
That
Yeah, that was a
was
really fun one too.
because back when I first started playing TERA, I played a warrior actually on not Basilios Crag, Jagged Coast. You know, that's where Flo was too, but we didn't know each other back then. But just doing that boss fight and going into it, and it's like has been blinded, or mainly the 30% burn. The darker your screen got each time, I was just like, oh fuck. Oh fuck, are we gonna kill it? Are we gonna kill it? Oh my god. Because your screen literally got almost pitch black. You didn't see what you were attacking. You were going based off of your mini map of where to attack.
Yeah, it's like a radar, and you're like, all right, he's in this direction. Let me blind shot my heart does this way, and hopefully I hit him. You know, like, oh my gosh.
Dude, that was just a really entertaining fight, because that's where I really started seeing PvE skill, I guess, kind of show up, because it was like so many people would die and not know how to avoid their stuff. I actually warrior tanked that back in the day when it was warriors didn't tank, you know.
You would see people not shoot the cannon when they first gets this barrier. They didn't know what that was all about. And then, like, when the burn starts, you know how he always opens up where he loads up and then he shoots the circles all around him?
Yeah.
That would, like, one-shot people on your team as soon as it's opened up like that. And I was just kind of like, oh, there was just so much things you had to know about that fight before you got in there. And it was really fun. I definitely liked that fight, too.
Definitely. Would that be your favorite? Oh, well, you said the Cyclops. Do you have any old school memories with them?
Feina Comprima, when that was the fight where I wanted to be really good at because of getting Fein Steel when your very first crafted, like, really good crafted weapon. So that was a really good fight, seeing as you know, you got caught in the snake and you get pulled in and you're like, oh no, what do I do? You have to hide behind the snake and like cover yourself. And most importantly, there was a bug where if you ran over there and broke the snake before anyone else, the people that were slow, they would die, and it was a so you control your team. So it was a fight. It was the very first dungeon that I could solo myself. Back then, there were certain wall tricks you can do with backstab. You can kind of skip the whole dungeon and get right to the last boss. And I soloed the boss. It took me about 2 hours, but it was like my very first big PvE accomplishment, and like in the game for sure.
Please report Flo for exploiting. Let's get this exploiter banned. All right, but definitely, you know, I think that we kind of covered that, and hopefully everyone found this entertaining. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, make sure to comment what is your favorite and least favorite BAMs, and especially in coordinates with something that we actually need to talk a little bit about is our sponsor, TERA Today, which, like I've said before at the start of this as well, it's easily your best source of TERA-related guides, TERA-related news content. We do special events on there, just a ton of really, really awesome stuff. So make sure to go check out teratoday.com, because if you haven't heard of TERA Today, something's wrong, because it's the hub of TERA information, pretty much. So anyway, what I was going to say, though, is today on Flo's stream, we're going to be able to do a EMP prize giveaway, which he'll do just by a basic roll. So make sure to be followed to Flo, because, you know, we're going to do it American style. And and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm also going to be doing a EMP giveaway, so make sure to like the video and comment down below, and I'll be picking a random comment, so say whatever you want in the description or in the comments down below. I'll be picking a random comment, and keep in mind as well, guys, that this is only applicable for US TERA. So this is only applicable for US players, or not US players, but just US or if you're playing on the US servers, in-mass servers, there we go. That's the word that I'm looking for. So make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, to comment down below as well as like the video, and check out TERA Today. If you're watching Flo stream, we'll be doing this shortly after we close up the podcast. For those, once again, just kind of our plug life, just to close this all up. My name's Kilrian. You can go to my YouTube at youtube.com/Kilrian. You can follow me on Twitter at Kilrian, and follow me on Facebook at Kilrian. Those will update anytime I make a video, anytime I start streaming, or anything like that, as well as I typically answer questions on there as well.
And if you want to check out any of my content, feel free to check me out, of course, on my stream at twitch.tv/Frogster. I also have a YouTube, youtube.com/Frogster, for any of the uploads and highlights that I enjoy making in terms of PvP. And of course, you should definitely tweet me out at Flowero on Twitter, because I legit answer any TERA related questions there, along with the Everything TERA questions as well for our podcast. And because, I'm looking forward to shouting out people, especially with my recent art and media project. So feel free to check me out any of those 3 places, along with, my Facebook and such, if you want to know a little bit more about myself. So
definitely. Yeah. Thank you all for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And once again, stick around for the giveaway. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, yada yada, things and stuff. Peace out, everybody.
See you guys later.